welcome to this week's episode of LevelUp Cyber. My name is Tony Bryan, and I am your host. And today we are joined by Laura Ohanian. Welcome, Laura, to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
So for those that have been tuning in, we've mentioned that we wanted to start highlighting some of the successes of our apprentices and the folks that have gone through our program. And Laura is currently an apprentice over at SSM Healthcare, one of our partners for the last several years, and has thrived and excelled in her role. So I'm very excited to spend the next few minutes with you and share your journey and to share your journey into cyber and where you think you want to go as you kind of look ahead. So before we jump in, it's probably important for us to get to know you a little bit. So I'd love you to take a second, tell us about yourself, tell us how you got into cyber and how you've got to where you're at today.
Well, let's see. I am a mother of two teenagers, 21 and 17, and I got into CyberUp about 4 years ago, I want to say, because I wanted to do something where there was an apprenticeship involved because I thought that would help me. So I got into web design, and I liked the half programming, and because it was the analytical and the creative, because you got to do the creating, the web design part, and then you got to do the analytical, the programming part. But the community college that I went to was not really good with helping you find a position. So I loved the idea of the computers. I've always loved computers. They make sense to me, and I've been in awe of them and how they work. And so the idea that CyberUp would provide apprenticeships when you finish studying was very attractive to me, because I thought that was what I needed to get started. So that's how I got started.
So how did that journey go? So you went through our pre-apprenticeship program, right? Got your certifications, and then you worked with us for the placement side. How along the way, was it an easy journey? Was there, how did that kind of path look from, acknowledging I wanted to find a different way through community college to CyberUp? How did that journey kind of shape up for you?
Well, you mean like when I got my, when I was studying for my certifications?
Yeah. Like I know you had a break in there. We talked before it came on, the idea for the break of, how that was going.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Well, I studied for the A+ and the Network Plus, and I passed those through CyberUp. And then I was just about to schedule my certification test when my son got really sick, and he got really sick for 2 years. And so I was able to take a sabbatical with CyberUp and take a break, but not for too long, because I actually did schedule the test, or I got the voucher, and then you have a year to take the test. So I took my certification on the very last day that was possible for that voucher.
That's awesome.
And I passed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's a point of resilience, right? In life, there's a lot of road bumps, hiccups, whatever word we want to use in this, right? Where we set our path and our mind on a journey, and there's this idea of everything's going to be easy and rainbows and sunshine, and then life happens, right? You've got kids and parents and all kinds of other distractions. I don't know, and global pandemics that you can sprinkle in there, where things happen, and it's easy to quit and not give up. But you didn't do that, right? You took a break, you took the time you needed, and then jumped back in and leverage the day, which is a good testament, I think, to you, and I think an inspiration for others to kind of follow in that journey.
Yes, I didn't give up.
And it paid off, right? And so, in that world from there, so you earned your certification. So now A+, Net Plus, Sec Plus, you've plowed through it. I know you've shared a little bit, and then you got into your role, right? So we were able to get you into an apprenticeship placement out of SSM Health. We'd say SSM, probably small to mid-size hospital system.
Mid-size.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about
hospital system, serves a local St. Louis area, but a great organization with a tremendous history of service and passion to clients that it served. The medical field continues to get more and more. I was going to say crazy, but crazy is not the right word, right? We're adding more and more technology and IoT devices and things to make health better, which makes the world of cyber, scary and a lot more risk. We're going to get to the journey here of like really what is a day in the life of an apprentice. So, just to start that, what are you doing each day when you're waking up and starting your day and getting ready to start working?
Okay. Well, the great thing about SSM is they're pretty flexible about your schedule. So I pretty much got to choose my schedule. So I choose to start at 7 a.m. and I start my day by logging on to each of the tools that I use, which are plentiful. So it takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to log on to all those tools and to get ready for the day. And then I peruse my responsibilities for the day and I see how those are set up, because you have to figure all that out and get a game plan, because constantly high tickets are coming in or incidents are coming in, and you may need to help work on those incidents, or you may need to work them yourself. Um, so that is basically how I start my day.
Is there any kind of normal? I mean, you mentioned the softwares, the technologies, right? You're getting your full stack to really be ready. Throughout the day, what is kind of a normal beeps and boops and alarms that kind of pop up? That is there a regularly scheduled kind of track of things that you're doing, or is there? How does that kind of look?
Well, what we do have scheduled regularly is because I work in the Security Operations Center, so we call it the SOC lovingly. And twice a week we have pre-scheduled meetings on Mondays and Wednesdays. And then, so we have our own responsibilities that we have to do during the day. But then what will come in, we'll get a high ticket. So we have it set up that it will ding on our phone. And so everyone sees it at the same time. And so we kind of take turns working the high tickets. So it's someone who a website is blocked, or someone who their emails are quarantined, and they need help with all of those things. So that's one alarm. And then we constantly have to like I'm in charge of the phishing inbox. So I constantly have to peruse those for high things that need to be worked on quickly, but also from VIPs. So we're supposed to, take those into consideration, and we can't just blindly do one after the other. So that's kind of what makes it exciting and interesting for me, is it's not just take the next one. It's, oh, let's see what's here. Let's see what's there. We'll work this first, and you prioritize, but you get used to that, prioritizing and working on what needs to be done first.
Yeah. So you jumped into a new role, new organization, new coworkers, right? What things did you do in that role to get familiar with your coworkers and make yourself kind of an integral part of the team? What were some of the things you did to really get involved?
I tried to jump in there and tried to do high tickets and tried to work on incidents, volunteer for stuff. And I tried to let them know what I really, really liked, which I really liked working on standard operating procedures. So I would really help with those, because that was a way that my boss would say, okay, if somebody new came in here and they weren't able to talk to anyone, we need to be able to write this down and have them be able to do the work with no help from anyone. So I really like taking apart a problem and putting all the steps in there. And that way it's kind of like programming, right? That you have to say all the steps to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You didn't know there were so many steps, but when you really have to tell a machine or someone how to do it that's never done it before, you have to think about it differently than you've ever done before. So that's interesting to me.
So, I mean, I know I would say friends with, your chief information security officer, and I speculate I know the culture that he is going to kind of foster for the organization. That's, one of inclusivity, high learning, right? There's probably high expectations to continue to learn and grow on the regular through him. What are some of the things that you're doing on your own, or maybe some of the things that SSM is helping you encourage to learn and study for to continue to grow your skill set?
Okay. Yeah, they're really good about encouraging people to study. They have a program for people. They sign people up, and they did have a little meeting on it when I first started. I forgot the name of it. It will come to me. But they also, like, once or twice a week, they'll have my boss's boss will lead a class on networking. And even though I took the Networking Plus test with CyberUp, they still encourage people who have not had hands-on work with it to take that as a refresher course, because I did not work in networking. So that's there. And they're always encouraging also by modeling too, because by example, because several of my coworkers have worked on new certifications, and they are currently studying for more. So everyone's very, very busy studying, and that it's a culture that they encourage.
Yeah. So Gary, for those that would be interested to learn, Gary Chan is the chief information security officer there. He's been on the show. Probably one of my favorite episodes we've covered with us, because he shared his kind of philosophy around interviewing and kind of best practices and his approach of when people come to ask him for help. And he's an incredible human that is just, I think, really truly cares about the sector and cares about helping grow his team. So I'm not surprised to hear the culture of continuous learning that is kind of implemented, just knowing him as well as is. So shameless plug. If after listening to this one, check out the Gary Chan one. It's a really good episode with some really good nuggets around interviewing and hiring best practices. So I know before we hopped on, we were getting ready to talk. You're starting to look at, okay, what's that next step, right? You want to, what's your next certification you're doing? And you're prioritizing that, even with two children, right? That's your two children you're raising to do those certs. How do you carve out time to on your own professional development? And I think you mentioned a little bit earlier around it's encouraged at work and some time made out, but how do you balance that ongoing learning for yourself?
With my family, well, I schedule time. So I schedule time during the week. I'd say about 2 to 6 hours per on the week during the week, and then a lot more on the weekend. But I also, if I listen to myself, because if I feel like I'm getting discouraged or overwhelmed, I kind of take a break, because I don't want to burn myself out, and because the older I've gotten, the more I've learned that I need to pace myself. But sometimes I need to kick myself in the butt, because, I want to watch that Netflix special or whatever. But then I think to myself, well, it'll be there later, and I'm not missing out on anything by missing a show. But this will provide me, meaning cybersecurity, will provide me with way more benefits and money, more lucrative too, in the long run. So I try to talk to myself differently on different days. It depends.
Reality television or professional development for your career? I mean, Vanderpump Rules is pretty good. I can honestly say I've never watched that show. It's just one I see that pops up. So I have I try to not get sucked into reality TV. I have enough other bad devices and information coming to my head that I try to minimize putting it in there. But it's a really good approach, right? I finished a book a little earlier this year called Finish, and it was a little bit about that idea of, and what I'm hearing you say, but not saying is you're setting gates and priorities. I really want to watch a Netflix show, which is great. I'm going to do this before I allow myself to do a Netflix show. So it's, retraining your brain a little bit and giving yourself the reward for doing the work that you may not want to do I would equate that to workouts for myself every single morning, right? Nobody wants to work out, but you never feel worse after a workout, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as you look ahead, right, you've got a long career ahead of you within the space. What do you think? What has really kind of gravitated to you? Like, what sector or kind of area of emphasis have you really kind of gleaned into and gravitated towards?
Well, it's interesting because when I first started, I thought I wanted to go into GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, because I think, oh, I'm not that technically minded because I'm not like most people who I think, or a lot of people, I should say, who are in cybersecurity, who they're ultra technical and they want to build server farms in their house and they want to take apart computers and stuff like that. That is not me. But I was talking to Clarence and he was saying, I think there's two kinds of people that are good in cybersecurity. And I think we need them both. And I think they're both valuable, the technical one and then the analytical one, the one who's better with social skills. And that was a really interesting conversation because I felt really good when he said that. And who are better at writing and stuff like that, because I think I'm pretty good with writing, technical writing. I think I like that appeals to me. However, the thought of governance, risk, and the compliance, the longer I was there, did not appeal to me as much. The more technical things I learned about networking and what tool does what, and getting into the firewall tool. And wow, there's so many great things, taking apart an email and figuring out what DKIM means and SPF and what they mean and what it tells you when you're doing your job and trying to help people so they don't get malicious emails in their inbox or, so that's fascinating too. And there was a guy that led an online course that I took, and he was really talking about that. And so that sparked my interest. And he just made it really interesting. And he was from the FBI and he was talking about emails and trends in emails and stuff like that, phishing emails and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's can be very cool. I got very excited about that stuff when I thought, that didn't interest me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a level of technical skill needed within the SOC environment, and you're using a lot of tools, right? I know you mentioned there's a pretty good tool stack. How did that transition of using multiple set of tools go for you? Was that an easy transition? Did you find that was that was hard? It took some time to figure it all. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Because you learn about it in Security Plus, right? But it's very it doesn't make sense. Like you read it, the paper, it is not the same thing as touching it, feeling it, working with it, using it when someone says, hey, help me. That's so different. And it's, I think, another part of your brain that you use too. So, trying to figure out how an MDR and an endpoint tool work together to figure out a problem and viewing all the logs. And I'm not going to lie, I was very overwhelmed in the beginning. I felt like a deer in the headlights when I first started. And so I think it kind of slowed me down a little initially because I was like, overwhelmed, everything at once. Because again, I came from being an engraver. I was not working in cybersecurity. I was not working in IT, none of that. I was an engraver. I worked with graphic design and customers, and I engraved trophies for the military and stuff like that. So anyway, I was overwhelmed. So I want to say it took me a good 6 months.
Yeah, I was going to ask you the question, how long did it take you to feel comfortable with those? Six months? That's interesting.
I would say, yeah. And I think the learning curve was longer than they wanted, but my boss was able to see when the light clicked on. It was like at 6 months, like something went on. And I was like, oh, that's what this is. He said, I knew you were getting it because I could tell, because when you get your answers from here, here, and here, and not just one place, and you're like taking a group of information and putting it together to get your answer, then I knew you were getting it. So
Nice.
that was a cool moment.
What has probably been your most favorite moment so far, over the past, because you're almost 12 months into your apprenticeship, right? So what's been the most fun or kind of your most memorable experience while you've been going?
Well, I would say one of the most is that they asked me to come back for like to stay for an extra 3 months. I thought for sure they were going to say, oh, you took too long to learn this. Oh, you didn't do this fast enough, or though. And I know that I am my worst critic. But to hear my boss say, no, we really like what you're doing. And we can see that you've worked really hard. And we even had a discussion one time. He said, we know that sometimes troubleshooting isn't your strong suit, but we can see that you've worked on that. So I'm kind of a scrapper sometimes. I'll just work hard if I don't get it. But then I still think I'm not good enough. But my boss said, yeah, we love what you're doing and we want you to stay for 3 months, 3 more months. And so that was so exciting to me. I felt so good. I was like, woo, my work is paying off. I feel like I can always work harder. But, that was really cool. And because we always talk about imposter syndrome in cybersecurity, because there is no possible way that one person can know everything. It's too vast. It's ocean upon ocean of information, and no one person can know it all. Because I heard somewhere a statistic that said most people become proficient at their job or, and within 7 years. And I just don't think, I'm only a year in, I know, but I just don't think it's possible for everyone to learn everything in cybersecurity in 7 years, even because everything changes so much. But not only that, even if it stayed the same, there's so much to learn. It's really infinite, and it just gets overwhelming, but you can't let that get you down, because you find in this position, I've found in my job, that certain people are good at certain things. So you got to talk to this person for this or that person for that. And so I think that's how cybersecurity works somewhat. You get people who are good at this thing and you get them all together and it makes a team.
Yeah, that's a good advice. I was going to ask you the question around, is there anything specifically you've done to help kind of mask or alleviate imposter syndrome for yourself?
When I got really, really frustrated, I just didn't quit. I felt like quitting sometimes. I got to be honest. I was very frustrated. But I just didn't quit. I just kept plugging away. And eventually, it just clicked in my brain and I was able to like kind of ice skate a little more instead of like clomping on the ice. I was able to skate a little more. So I just didn't stop.
Yeah. I've been here 8 years and I still have imposter syndrome, if it makes you feel any better. And I've had the same role. It's just there are days that you feel great and confident about yourself, and there are days you wake up and you just don't, or
right.
A situation that's going to impact and make you feel less. But having a support system, we talked a little bit about Amber, chief of staff for us, and how great she was. Having a good support system and team around you is important. And I think cybersecurity is a sector or job function that mirrors that in a really good way, and is an important aspect of what makes a good, true cybersecurity team successful. So so a year later, you got extended for 3 months. You're looking ahead into kind of what the next 2 to 3 years looks like. What do you kind of see? You mentioned you like the technical stuff. What certifications or what other kind of what's the next learning points you're going to start to jump into?
Well, I am studying for the Cloud Plus certification now. I should be taking that within this month. Um, so that is my next step. Then I really wanted to delve into redoing the Network Plus, because that's what we're doing at work now. My boss's boss has a class like twice a week, and just reviewing those quizzes he'll give us. And so I want to do that. But I also, and there was also a free cybersecurity test that I wanted to take. They were giving free like SOC cybersecurity testing to the first, I think, million people. One of the companies, I forgot which one now, but I wanted to do that because I thought, oh, that would help me like right now with what I'm doing. So I really wanted to do that. And then,
I think that was IST Squared is the one who did that. The $1 million voucher, million vouchers. They went out, and I've not seen any updates on that, how they're doing in their progress. I can find out. Now you provoked me to want to go find out the answer, because it's been almost a year or some change, right, since that kind of came out, if I recall.
Maybe, but my boss just took it like 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, it takes a while to get through 1 million people. Like, that's the thing. It's 1 million people is a lot. It was great. I mean, it's a good resource of finding free things is always important in this.
Yes.
It can add up and get expensive for start trying to stack some of those credentials, especially the OSCPs and your more advanced ones that are, highlighting your hacking skills, or those can get really expensive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as you're looking ahead to, planning some research, you mentioned a little earlier about kind of blocking your time and scheduling for things to really make sure that you're holding yourself accountable. Any other kind of best practices you've incorporated, throughout that to balance all of the work, studying, professional development, life, personal life?
Well, one thing that I know, it's old school, but one thing that has helped me that my coworker suggested that he did was sometimes you get pulled in like 500 different directions. So you're heading in one direction, and then someone's like, hey, I have a question. And you always want to help your coworkers, right? Because usually they need help right then. So I just keep a notebook next to me with a pen. I know it's old school and I should probably use OneNote, but that helps me. I just jot stuff down, because sometimes, like, if I want to get it down real fast, to me, it's faster to hit that notepad with the pen instead of going click, 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 trying to get through. Because I have like 3 screens, and like I have, lots of tabs open and everything. That's one thing that helped me to prioritize. But the other is just knowing your screens and knowing which ones to have up. And your coworkers can help you set those up to know, this is the screen I need to go to get an overview. See, how many tickets do I have in the queue? How many phishing email do I have? And it's just like, I use a lot of OneNotes though, too. I make a lot of notes there, and that helps me get it straight in my brain, to know I need to be checking this, this, and this all the time. And my coworker even said he sent a 30-minute timer to check a certain thing every 30 minutes. Now, I don't do that, but just learning those how to get the computer systems to work for you, stuff like that.
Yeah, I know. I try to go fully digital, like transition to an iPad, use that for my notebook, started using Google Tasks as kind of my little notebook to decide. And I find it's harder. I'm being honest. I guess I'm more old school, where you got, notebooks to take notes. And what you don't see is I have a really big whiteboard over here. And I have lots of check boxes and things that you can see, right? That tracks, for me, is tracking workouts, walks, the different priorities there. We got some personal goals up top that I kind of keep those front of mind. So I'm always looking and kind of keeping track of all that stuff. And I know for me, I want to be fully digital because I want to save trees for whatever reason. I'm not that guy, but I really like the use of printing to paper is just kind of silly when we have all these technologies. So it's been hard for me to make that transition. So I'm here for the old school mindset to some extent. I wish I had a book that I think I burned through a couple of them, where it was nothing but check boxes and 60 lines per page. I filled 2 of them with just to-do lists.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever find yourself, we're going to have a moment of truth. We only got one more question. I'm going to ask 2 more questions. Do you ever find yourself adding things to your list simply to check it off the box to make yourself feel better?
Once in a while, I'll do that.
I do it more than I probably should care to admit, but there's something satisfying about the check box.
Yes. Yeah.
So last question, everybody gets the same one. What advice would you give to others to level up their cybersecurity careers?
I would say kick yourself in the butt, just study, but also don't be so hard on yourself. Just and it's so frustrating, I understand, but just keep going. I hate to say don't give up because everybody says don't give up. I just say keep on going because I like to focus on the positive message. Keep going instead of don't give up. Because when I have an undergraduate degree in psychology, and we had a guest speaker one time come in and say, when you say don't give up, the dominant thought is give up. So I like to say things like keep going instead. So
I mean, Nike got it right a long time ago with just do it. I mean, that's a good tagline that's lasted for infinity, and I think will continue to go on for a long time. So yeah, the thing is the thing, and focus the time. That's great advice. Well, Laura, I appreciate the time spent today. It's been fun to watch your journey with us as an apprentice, and I'm excited to see what this next chapter looks like for you. And I'm confident that no matter what you set your mind to, you're going to accomplish because you've proved that time and time again. So I hope that, I'm excited to continue to follow your success. So thanks for joining us.
thank you.
For everybody else, I appreciate you listening to the show and tuning into the podcast because and hopefully you like the content. If is there anything you want to hear, LinkedIn's always open. Email's easy to find. If you really look hard, my cell phone's not that hard to find either. So send a note. We're always looking for good topics. So have a great day. And until next time, see you soon.
Okay. Thank you, Tony.